Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. As part of our ongoing year-ender series, we've been looking back at some of the key moments of 2025 across various fields. From cinema and sports to health and politics, we've discussed the developments that made the biggest difference last year. And today we are turning our focus to the world of tech, and specifically artificial intelligence, a technology that continues to be touted as one that will change the world as we know it. But to understand the extent to which AI actually delivered on those promises last year, we are joined by the Indian Express's Karan Mahadik. Karan, AI obviously is now the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about new technology. So tell us about some of the trends that dominated the AI landscape in 2025.
Well, first of all, I think thinking back on how this year began, it began with Donald Trump returning to the White House. And I think that was quite a significant moment for the AI companies in the US as well as the overall AI industry because, we saw these big tech leaders, right, from Sundar Pichai to Jeff Bezos to Mark Zuckerberg, kind of scramble to be in Trump's good graces and try to win him over by announcing like donations to his inaugural fund. And initially, upon taking office, Trump did take a hardline position. He vowed to break up Meta and impose tariffs on Apple supply chains and obviously restrict exports of AI chips from Nvidia and other chip makers to countries like China and India. But eventually, now that we're nearing the end of the year, I think most of the big tech companies working on AI, they've kind of gotten everything that they've wanted from Trump. I think this year, as per New York Times, Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, Nvidia, OpenAI, and Oracle have announced a combined $1.4 trillion in spending on domestic data centers and manufacturing projects in the US. So we saw that 2025 ended up being for AI companies based in the US. They were free of potential regulation after Trump withdrew Biden's AI executive order. And he's put in place, kind of industry-friendly policies.
We have a tremendous industry where we're leading by a lot. It's the AI, artificial intelligence. It's a massive industry. We're leading China, we're leading everybody by a tremendous amount. And, they can't, basically, it's a big part of the economy. And there's only going to be, I think, one winner here. I don't know if anybody agrees with that. I think most people agree, but there's only going to be one winner here, and that's probably going to be the U.S. or China. And right now we're winning by a lot at big companies, great companies.
Another key trend that emerged was right after this Trump's inauguration was the race for AI sovereignty that was triggered by DeepSeek. So again, in late January, DeepSeek released its AI model, which was an open-weight AI model that performed as well as models developed by OpenAI and Google while using fewer resources. And that kind of triggered a market reaction where there was this sell-off of AI stocks and so on. And essentially what DeepSeek did was it kind of made America's lead over China in AI look smaller than since ChatGPT was launched in 2022. Another trend was, which is kind of a larger trend outside of US and China, was a shift in users' search behavior. So one of the big looming questions this year was, well, it wasn't a question really, but more of a matter of fact about how the way people look up information online is changing, right? Because earlier you would say Google it, now people are literally saying like, just ChatGPT it. And obviously since then, during its I/O developer conference, Google announced AI mode, which is basically different from AI overviews. It kind of replaces the traditional blue links search results page that we've been seeing for all these years. It replaces that with a chatbot that effectively creates a miniature article in response to your query using various advanced machine learning techniques.
So AI mode, as you said, yes, it is right on the homepage. It looks like this. It changes what billions of people see when they open their browser, which is still the on-ramp for the entire internet. There it is right there. This has major ramifications for the AI race at large and for the ecosystem that search has powered for over 2 decades. So look what happens when you actually use that AI mode and ask, say, about the Altman-Zuckerberg fight. You don't get a list of news articles. Instead, you get a summary, a Gemini-generated answer. And that matters.
So there's been this shift in terms of user behavior, and I think that's also been corroborated by various studies over the past year. One such study was conducted by Pew Research. Basically, sampling responses from around 900 Americans. So this survey showed that 6 in 10 respondents, about 58%, conducted at least one Google search in March 2025 that produced an AI-generated summary.
And Karan, if we talk specifically about India and the development of AI language models here, what were some of the major developments that we saw?
Well, I think in India too, I think we have to kind of go back to that DeepSeek market reaction, because when DeepSeek released its open weight AI model, it was also a wake-up call for a lot of Indian developers and Indian researchers and even the Indian government, right? And in the days after that, a lot of questions were rising about where India is in the global AI race. Because historically, if you look at it, we've been seen as the global back office for the software industry. And obviously, India has a tech ecosystem that has mostly evolved with the services first mindset. You know, we have giants like Infosys and TCS build their success on delivering efficient software. But somewhere I think invention was neither like prioritized or not rewarded enough. And that's why, despite our status as a global tech hub, we've kind of been seen as lagging far behind US and China when it comes to developing homegrown AI models, right? And India has also not invested as much in R&D and institutions and so on. So that was one key thing that emerged. And just a few days after the DeepSeek thing happened, the Indian government called for proposals to develop our own foundational AI model under the India AI mission. So far, the India AI mission, which is like a national level initiative with a more than 10,000 crore outlay, it was focused on procuring compute power, and it still is focused on that. But since then, the Indian government has also been shortlisting a wide range of startups to develop sovereign LLMs for India.
India AI mission और लोकसभा के बीच में एक MOU साइन हुआ है, जिसमें कि जो लोकसभा के बहुत विस्तृत डिबेट्स हैं, बहुत बड़ा एक भारत की भाषाओं का बड़ा एक कोश है, इसको AI के साथ उपयोग करके जो एक AI कोश के नाम से डेटा सेट बनाया जा रहा है, उसमें उपयोग किया जाएगा, जिससे कि कोई भी डिबेट हमारे देश के जो रिसर्च करने वाले हैं, माननीय सांसद हैं, जो एकेडेमिया हैं, उनको हमारे लोकसभा के पार्लियामेंट के विस्तृत डिबेट्स का किसी भी भाषा में ट्रांसलेशन मिलने की एक सुविधा पैदा होगी.
But Karan, even as India develops its own large language models and a broader AI ecosystem, it has also emerged as a key market for global AI giants. Could you talk about what's driving that?
Right. So the past 4-5 months has seen every major AI company, right from Google to OpenAI to Perplexity, offering long-term free access to the premium AI services to millions of users in India. Like Perplexity AI has tied up with Airtel, and eligible Airtel customers get its Pro subscription for free. Reliance Jio and Google have partnered to offer users a free Google AI Pro subscription for 18 months. OpenAI is also offering an annual low-cost ChatGPT Go subscription that's worth about $400 per month, which is free for 1 year. And obviously, it makes you wonder why these tech companies are being so generous, especially at a time when developing AI is so expensive and the cost of infrastructure, investments, and training these AI models, they're spending billions of dollars on it. So why are they rolling out freebies for India? And I think based on reports, it could be seen that one of their strategies is to try and harvest the troves of multilingual training data from Indian users, right? So India is obviously the world's top consumer of mobile data per user, and its internet users are set to surpass 900 million. And another problem with developing AI models for specific languages, especially languages in India, is that Indian language content on the internet is very limited. And so developers have had to come up with like new, unique ways to try and harvest these data from other sources. And so one of the ways these companies are doing that is by offering their models for free for a limited period of time to India. And in that sense, I think a lot of companies from OpenAI to Anthropic have opened new offices, and they've hired personnel to look after the operations here. There's obviously the mega investments that are being pledged to build out data centers in India. Just this month, Amazon and Microsoft announced a combined $52.5 billion investment plan for India over the coming years. Microsoft committed $17.5 billion, and Amazon said it would be pumping in about $35 billion to help India like strengthen its AI ecosystem and advance its like AI-driven digitization, as well as, create jobs and so on. Google has also announced a 15 billion investment to build an AI data hub, and Intel announced a partnership with Tata, so that Tata is its first major customer in its semiconductor manufacturing plants, which amounts to about 14 billion. So India is not only emerging as a key user market, but it's also emerging as a AI and cloud infrastructure hub.
And in 2025, AI also became a driver for several social media trends, like the Ghibli style portraits and meeting my younger self. What do these moments tell us about how people are engaging with AI today?
So OpenAI released this new feature called ChatGPT Images, and it's basically powered by GPT-4o. And unlike other image generators, because there have been image generators before that, so these image generators used a diffusion process to create images, whereas OpenAI tried to do things differently, and images for ChatGPT feature takes like a step-by-step, top-to-bottom auto-regressive approach for image rendering. And when this was rolled out, I think it happened organically. It was not like a deliberate thing. When it was rolled out first, users started experimenting by generating images in various cartoon styles like South Park, Rick and Morty, and Simpsons, and so on. And then I think one person on the internet said like, hey, I made a Studio Ghibli version of my wife. And the internet completely lost its mind. So within a few days, like everyone's social media feeds was flooded with Studio Ghibli inspired art. But when this AI generated Ghibli art trend kicked off, obviously there was a lot of backlash as well from Studio Ghibli fans who said that the use of AI generated image generators to copy an artist's personal style goes directly against what visionary co-founder of Studio Ghibli stood for. Others pointed out that it shows how disposable art has become thanks to generative AI. But obviously the kind of fatal flaw at the heart of all of this was copyright infringement, right? So are companies like OpenAI training their AI models on copyrighted works? And if so, does that violate copyright law?
You may have seen some anime-style pictures circulating the internet recently, all thanks to a new tool on OpenAI's ChatGPT. Now, this one lets users generate images in Studio Ghibli's iconic hand-drawn visuals, similar to those seen in Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. And the widespread use of the AI tools also led to questions about creative ownership and potential copyright violations. Studio Ghibli's founder, the renowned director Hayao Miyazaki, hasn't yet publicly commented on this recent trend, although he did previously criticize AI-generated animation as, quote, an insult to life itself. Gosh, you can read more.
So after that, I think what we observed was tech companies like Google in particular deliberately trying to ensure that their tools can be used in such a way. And Google succeeded mostly. So it rolled out Nano Banana, which is its latest like image generator. And what set this image generator apart was it could handle highly specific edits, like changing a subject's clothes or locations and adding another person like a celebrity. So you could edit your real life photograph and add Shah Rukh Khan next to you and it would look really believable, right? Obviously, all of these images did come with both a visible watermark as well as an invisible one called Synth ID.
And keeping all of this in mind, do these developments also raise concerns about more fabricated content and deepfakes, which are already becoming a serious issue?
Yeah, I think going forward, there will be more concerns about the growing misuse of synthetically generated information like deepfakes. The Indian government has also proposed draft rules making the labeling of AI-generated content on social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram mandatory. And these platforms are also required to seek a declaration from users on whether the uploaded content is synthetically generated information. And if they fail to comply, they could also lose legal immunity they enjoy from third-party content.
And Karan, another thing that we saw last year was people using ChatGPT and other AI chatbots to deal with their mental health issues. People across the world started confiding in these chatbots. What kind of concerns has this trend raised?
Yeah, another prevailing trend of this year was the rise of AI psychosis, which is basically the term used to describe the experience of when a user loses touch with reality after using AI chatbots like ChatGPT for a long period of times, and they kind of develop this kind of attachment to the chatbot even. And that in turn has sparked a lot of concerns about how AI chatbots and AI companion bots affect users' mental health, particularly teen users. So recently, OpenAI's own study said that around 0.07% of ChatGPT users showed signs of mental health emergencies like mania, psychosis, and suicidal thoughts. And while that might seem like a small percentage, ChatGPT's weekly active user base is 700 million. So it actually translates to more than a million. And besides that, OpenAI is obviously facing a lot of lawsuits which allege that teen users are allegedly died by suicide after having prolonged conversations with AI chatbots. So, and all of this has brought OpenAI under a lot of scrutiny from like policymakers, educators, and child safety advocates.
And looking back at 2025, what were some of the major developments in AI, and were there any surprises along the way?
Right. Well, for me, I think the most unexpected and probably the one that I'm most excited about as well is Google's comeback with Gemini 3. So when OpenAI introduced ChatGPT almost 3 years ago, it was kind of seen as this starting pistol in the AI race for all tech companies, but for Google in particular, because Google researchers invented the concept of the transformer, which is the underlying tech that has made LLMs possible. And at that point, Google was caught on the back foot. They went into a code red situation to try and compete with OpenAI. And since then, the search giant has come a long way. They've tried to disrupt themselves by kind of breaking down the internal silos, streamlining leadership, consolidating their AI projects, and just overhauling their entire strategy to AI development. Even Sergey Brin, one of Google's co-founders, came out of partial retirement and has since taken on like a day-to-day role at the companies. And obviously Google is also, so this is kind of like a two-front battle. On one hand, it is competing with OpenAI as to who has the better LLM, better AI model. On the other hand, it is also manufacturing its own chips to kind of reduce its dependence on NVIDIA's GPUs. And I think Gemini 3 was also seen as a milestone on that front because it was trained entirely on Google's TPUs, which is its custom-built tensor processing units rather than NVIDIA's GPUs. That also triggered a market reaction, which led to shares declining of NVIDIA, but obviously not as big as the DeepSeek reaction. But it was quite substantial and made a lot of people pay attention to it. But again, I think it's also important to note that a lot of people like Satya Nadella have argued that AI model development and cloud computing, they're not likely to be winner-takes-all scenarios, right? So yeah, that's one point to be noted.
Now that we've talked about the developments, what about the failures? With AI still being very much a work in progress and with new models coming out all the time, what didn't work out this year?
Yeah, there have been many failures. Well, I would actually call them the biggest fails of 2025. The first and foremost would be OpenAI's GPT-5 launch. I think OpenAI itself said, it screwed up the rollout of the AI model, GPT-5. In fact, the tone and behavior of ChatGPT has been kind of an ongoing issue this year. So what happened was when the release of GPT-5 was widely anticipated and it was built up by OpenAI itself, Sam Altman posted this image of the Death Star on the horizon like a few days before the AI model was rolled out. And so there was all of these rumors circulating on social media and a lot of users expected a lot. But when the model was released, I think a lot of them found it underwhelming in terms of its responses. A lot of them complained that, the responses were overly agreeable, that they were sycophantic. And then just a few days after the model was officially launched, OpenAI rolled out another behavioral update which tried to make GPT-5's responses kind of warmer and friendlier after users complained that it was very cold and less friendly. And it made a series of tweaks and behavioral adjustments to the model following its debut. So that was one failure that comes to mind. Another was probably Siri and how generative AI has kind of failed to boost the AI-powered voice assistants like Siri and Alexa Plus. For Siri, I think, Apple, to a large extent, there is this perception that in both Silicon Valley and on Wall Street that Apple has fallen behind its peers in AI. Apple launched Apple Intelligence last year, but amid a lot of expectations. But in the initial days, a lot of people hyped the AI system as like the next big thing. But ultimately, I think 2025 users realized that Apple Intelligence falls short of those expectations. Both critics and Apple enthusiasts were disappointed with Apple Intelligence. A major part of that problem is also Siri. Siri was expected to undergo like a AI-centric makeover, but due to various issues, the overhaul was taking longer than expected, and Apple has now delayed the release of that revamped AI makeover Siri until 2026. Another fail of 2025 in AI was Grok.
Why was Elon Musk's Grok AI chatbot suddenly spewing out anti-Semitic tropes? Well, a few weeks ago, Elon Musk announced that they would be completely retraining Grok. Musk had expressed disappointment with how Grok had responded to some users, claiming that it was, quote, parroting legacy media. A few days ago, he said that users should start noticing a change. And users did notice that change, and in some cases, it raised some alarms. In one case, Grok praised Adolf Hitler, saying that Hitler would be the one who would be able to decisively deal with what it said was anti-white hate. In another instance, when a user asked who controls the government, Grok seemingly implied that Jews, who make up just about 2% of the US population, were overrepresented in positions of power and influence. I asked Grok, where did some of these responses come
Grok showed what runaway AI models can do. Its unhinged responses sparked like a full-blown controversy in India, and mostly because, Grok is not like other AI chatbots. It's not designed like that. It's not as locked down as other chatbots when it comes to like politically sensitive topics. It actually offers users an unhinged mode for premium paid users, that is. And Grok has also been openly advertised by Musk as like an anti-woke alternative. In an interview last year, he said that Grok happened mainly because of fears that existing AI models had left-wing bias baked into their training data sets. And there have been so many instances this year of Grok going off the rails, Grok gone wild. It praised Adolf Hitler. It even turned against its own company owner, Elon Musk. And I think a lot of these issues also point to like a more fundamental problem with LLMs, which is, it's hard to predict their behavior and their responses.
Besides AI models like Grok going off the rails, there's also this constant narrative that AI would end up taking away a lot of jobs. Given the pace at which it is developing, is that a valid fear?
I think it's a valid fear. While the uptake of AI was, so in 2024, AI was widely recognized as contributing to layoffs. But most of the companies framed the job cuts as a response to broader economic uncertainty, and very few firms were willing to explicitly link job cuts to AI or acknowledging that they were replacing humans with AI tools. But in 2025, that changed. This year was very different in that sense. I think a lot of major tech companies, right from Amazon to Microsoft, announced thousands of job cuts. And more importantly, they cited AI or AI adoption as a key factor of those job cuts. I think we'll have to also watch out for whether AI-generated music and ads, whether they can become mainstream. I think in 2025, we've already seen the proliferation of AI slop. But besides that, we've also seen a lot of AI-generated musicians find success. A lot of tools have been released to generate AI podcasts. There have been tools that have been used to create AI-generated videos that feature dead celebrities. In September, an AI startup released a very realistic appearing AI-generated actress called Tilly Norwood, and that kind of sparked concern in Hollywood over job replacement.
I'm Tilly Norwood, the world's first AI actor. Come and work with me.
So we are looking.
Obviously, a lot of filmmakers have come out against the use of AI in films. People like Guillermo del Toro and James Cameron. And on the other hand, you have companies like Disney reaching agreements with OpenAI, basically allowing OpenAI to use Disney-owned characters in its AI-generated videos. So that'll be another thing to watch out for.
And Karan, now that 2026 is here, what are some of the biggest expectations from AI going forward?
I think 2026 is bound to be another significant year for AI. India will be hosting the India AI Impact Summit from Feb 15 to Feb 20th, and it's supposed to be one of the biggest events, AI-related events in the global south. About heads of government from around 15 to 20 countries and several global figures from AI and tech are expected to participate. It will be inaugurated by PM Modi. India sent out invitations to about 140 countries so far, and the conference is being held to generate like recommendations for how to govern AI long term and also come up with more immediate regulations in terms of AI. But more specifically, I think there are a few things that one should watch out for. For instance, AI could pose a threat to the creator economy. A lot of creators are already under pressure from platforms because they're not being paid very well, and that's pushing them towards brand deals. And as a result, they are generating more inauthentic content or content that not necessarily resonates with their audience. Add to that AI, I mean, a lot of big tech companies are viewing AI generated content as the future of social media. You know, you had people like Mark Zuckerberg say in an earnings call that Meta plans to add another huge corpus of content, and it plans to kind of refine its recommendation systems to make it easier for users to create and remix AI into their work. And finally, another thing that is very widely expected in 2026 is the platform shift that so many tech industry leaders have been talking about. While we have AI-powered devices and while smartphones have been integrated with a lot of AI features and so on, including laptops as well, I think no single company is yet perfected an entirely AI-focused hardware. You know, OpenAI partnering with Jony Ive, who was a former Apple designer, basically in charge of how the iPhone looks today. And so while no one as yet has been successful in coming up with any kind of gadget or hardware that is completely built around an LLM, it's quite interesting to see how this partnership will pan out.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank, Bhargava and me, Niharika, Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.